Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Galit Speaks. Um, I have an awesome guest on today, Louis Marinucci. So excited for him to be on. We have a lot of stuff that we do together, so I'm happy that I could bring him on today. He is a board member of the Diversity Initiative, a diver, a merman, a Twitch streamer, a YouTube streamer, and autistic. Thank you so much for Louis for being here.
It's a pleasure to be back on this podcast again, Galit.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have you again. And I mean, we care about so many of the same things, and we're on the board of the Diversity Initiative together. And that's one of the ways that I met you. So,
I technically met you through Nicole, remember?
yep, yep. And then we see each other every week at board meetings.
And the only time we met in the flesh was at Beneath the Sea earlier this year.
Yep. In March, we went to Beneath the Sea, which is a scuba convention, but a scuba convention that's open to the public in New Jersey. So that was really cool. And so I got to actually meet Louis in person, which is not something I can say for many of my podcast guests. I usually meet everyone virtually. So I'm happy that I got to meet you in person.
Me too.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about what's going on for you now. I know when we were talking just now, there's some things that are happening in your life that
It's a combination of both good and bad. I'm
yeah.
going to start with the bad. A week before the first time we met, I had a falling out with someone. I'm not going to talk bad about them. It's just that things between this person and I just didn't work out. Things kind of went too far. And, well, I decided to cut ties to them and move forward. And it just, even months later, it still hurts me and bothers me
Yeah.
because her and I were good friends and all. I am starting to let go, though, which is good.
And being autistic, do you feel that creates a harder situation for you when it comes to like your relationships and your friendships?
It can be. And there's also other things, like, for example, being bullied by the neighborhood school kids, which unfortunately happened to me since last fall, and the same group that were harassing me since last fall attacked me back in May. And now this new group of kids who are connected to those other kids, especially one of them turns out to be seems to be troubled. All I have to do is just try to ignore them.
And that those are physical altercations or they're bullying you online.
No, it's
Um,
in person as they
it's
get
in,
out of school.
and is
But I'm not.
it because of your autism?
I would. I would say yes. Well, at the same time, these are just kids that are troubled and probably need help.
Yeah.
And then back in August, on the 21st, I tragically lost my maternal grandmother of 88 years to both pancreatic and kidney cancer.
So sorry.
Thanks. Then I also tried to work for Mermaid Tasha, but unfortunately things didn't work out as a result of it being at the last minute, and then not being able to do gigs because there were hardly any for me. Couldn't get the tail I wanted, but in the light of that, I did meet some good people, and one of them is going to train me in 2024 for Patty Mermaid.
Good.
She also is going to join me as a fellow volunteer at the Adventure Aquarium in the tank as a diver. She's also a trauma nurse when she's not playing mermaid, and a mother of two kids.
Wow.
Her name is Marilyn, also known as Mermaid Marie, which is Gaelic for her name Marilyn.
Okay. So are those the good things that have been happening for you?
Yes, and also instead of going down to Florida to celebrate my 40th, I decided to return to Cozumel in 2024 and 2025 and get the tail I couldn't get through Tasha as a birthday gift, along with the monofin.
That's great.
Now, then there's also, speaking of Cozumel and Diveheart, I got to meet the fellow board member Nico Comwell last fall in Cozumel while he was learning how to become an adaptive buddy through Diveheart.
That's awesome.
I got to dive with Nico too.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And some of you have seen Nico or heard Nico on this podcast. Um, he is also on the board of the Diversity Initiative, and also someone who's a great person to know. So I'm really glad that you got to meet him in person, because the times that I've met Nico in person have been really, really amazing.
And Galit, speaking of 2024, this is where I hope to finish my open water freediver training with Nicole, also known
Yeah,
as the Siren Nix,
yeah,
who I actually met on Facebook first before meeting her in person last summer, along with Robbie, who are also members of the board members on the Diversity Initiative, and who you've also had Nicole here on this podcast.
yeah, yeah. I feel like our our lives are very much intertwined. So I'm I'm happy to hear. I mean, I'm sad for all of the bad things that you've been going through, um, and especially like the ongoing bullying, because I think that no one should be bullied, and it is very sad that they are taking it out on you, and especially if it's because of your autism. And
Or they just don't know about me either and don't understand me.
yeah, and I feel like I, I I feel for you going through that, and I'm also happy for all of the good things that are coming um, in your life. And I want to talk a little bit about how diving and being a mermaid and being a free diver, how has that helped you in your personal life, and has it been therapeutic for you?
Yes, it has been, which of course it. in regards to Dive Heart, yes, that because as Jim Elliott, who you also met at Beneath the Sea, mentioned that scuba therapy can be therapeutic for people on the spectrum, not just myself, but also my friend and fellow Dive Heart adaptive diver, who was featured in a interview with WGN in 2012 along with his father. His name is Nick Johnson, and his father is named Glenn. I've actually been on trips to Cozumel with them. And Nick, he's fascinated with me being a merman, but I'm not sure if he wants to be one himself, though.
And do you feel like mermaiding and being a merman has had the same therapeutic effect on you as scuba diving?
Exactly. In fact, I'll be taking my class with another fellow autistic
And
next year. She's a great friend, and we talk occasionally.
and what is it about being a merman that feels good to you? What can you describe what it is about it that makes you feel good?
I feel at home. I feel like when I'm underwater, I really feel like a real merman.
Yeah.
Because even Nicole would tell you.
Yeah, it's something about being in the water calming you, and um Nicole actually can explain this way better, but there are receptors on our face that when we put into water, we automatically calm down. Right? It has a like a automatic calming effect on us. And so it makes a lot of sense that putting someone in the water, going diving, being a merman and being in the water and having the water on your face can really help you relax and calm down and forget about everything that's going on in your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We got hello Sith. One of my he's my Cinemag Sith is my moderator from when I'm on Twitch.
That's
And we got a
awesome.
comment from someone named Jen Beck.
Yeah.
What do I love about being in the water? I, I feel at home, and it's just I'm a water baby. I'm a Pisces, and it's my natural sign.
Yeah. And do you have like a favorite part of diving? Is it because of the animals? Is it because of the coral? Is it just like being underwater and being able to breathe?
I'd say it's more like being underwater, but I also like the animals too,
Yeah,
especially the moray eel.
really.
I've seen a lot of them in Cozumel, including the green moray.
Yeah.
But when I'm not diving in Cozumel, I'll sometimes even go to the Adventure Aquarium where I'm a volunteer at.
Okay. That's really cool. And so you mentioned something about the aquarium and donating your time at the aquarium, volunteering. When are you going to be doing that and what does it
When am I
entail?
going? When am I going back? Hopefully sometime this month and definitely next month. And I also will be going on Christmas Eve to do Scuba Santa as an elf.
Oh, that's awesome.
because the costumes we wear when diving as Santa and elves are actually really wetsuits.
Okay.
Jen asked, she missed, she said she missed the beginning of me
Yeah.
as a merman.
Yes, as
Where
a
do I
mermaid.
do that? Where do I do and where do I do that? Well, to answer your question, Jen, depends. Sometimes I'll do it in pools, though I don't have a pool near me, or I'll even go to the beach and do some content there. And during my last Cozumel trip, I actually got to do a little mermaiding in the water.
In the ocean.
Yes, but
And
not
was it deep? Did like, was it deep
nah
water or it was
nah.
on the shore?
It was actually in the little rock pool which leads out into the sea across the street from the hotel, which is known. The hotel is called the Wyndham Cozumel, formerly Hotel Cozumel.
That's really cool.
You've been to Have you been to Cozumel before, Galit?
I have. I've been one time, and it was beautiful, and the scuba diving there was beautiful. And actually, I mean, the drift diving there. Did you do any drift diving? So
Of
that
course,
was
I've done a
cool.
lot of drift diving there, and I've even got to do night dives during my 4 trips.
That's really cool because did you see any of the stuff that lights up at night underwater?
Yes, I've seen octopuses, octopi. I've seen an octopus. I've seen sea urchins. I've seen lionfish.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember in Cozumel when I was doing one of my drift dives, the current was so strong that like I was just flying by, and I remember like trying my hardest to swim back because there was a turtle on the ocean floor eating coral, and it was the size of a small table. Like it was huge, and I was like, "Whoa, what did I just pass?" And I was like struggling to get back to see it.
Now, Galit, I think maybe you should join me and Nico one day in Cozumel with Dive Heart on a trip.
Yeah, I think Dive Hard is an amazing organization, and if anyone listening here doesn't know what Dive Heart is, it's actually they train adaptive buddy divers.
And
Uh,
also work with adaptive divers.
and yeah, and work with adaptive divers, which is anything from like physical disabilities to someone like Louis who is on the spectrum, and all different things. They because of how therapeutic um, diving has been shown to be, and it is therapeutic with just about everything, like dis- for people with disabilities, for people on the spectrum, for people with PTSD, for just just about anything. Um, it is great. The water is very healing to all of those things. So Dive Hard is an incredible organization that not only takes people with disabilities and people that need adaptive buddies out, they also train people how to be adaptive buddies so that if a buddy could take somebody else out, like Nico could possibly take somebody out in San Francisco rather than just be on those specific dive heart trips, which the dive heart trips I heard are amazing also.
And speaking of fellow autistics, last year when I was with Nico, I also met another autistic, a a young lady named Christina. She, I'll give you a little background, but She was
Yeah.
born in Russia and was adopted. Well, despite things being a little bit rocky between Christina and I, still a good diver though.
That's great.
She's another example of how autistic people make good divers too. Not just me or Nick, but also her.
Yeah. So tell me, what do you think about what about being autistic do you think makes you a great diver?
Well, just helps me get away from all the drama. And excuse me, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
And all the bullshit in
Yeah.
life.
Good. Yeah, it's important to have a place to go away, right? It's important to have a place to escape, especially with everything that's going on right now for you, right now for the world. Like a way to disappear and be, have nothing to think about besides everything that you're seeing and everything that's around you and your breath, right? I think that is one of the most therapeutic things for me for diving is the sounds are shut off for me, right? Like
Exactly.
it's just me and my breath and me and my breath and that's it. Like everything else, all of the noise, all of the outside influences all shut off.
Yes. Now, there's also other exciting things. If you see the shirt I'm wearing, it's because the Phillies are in the National League Championship Series alongside the Arizona Diamondbacks.
That's
You live in Phoenix.
I live in Phoenix. I know nothing about this. I do not follow hardly any, well, I don't really follow any sports teams. So tell me about it.
Well, in regards to sports, though, I sometimes do have meltdowns about that, and that's something I'm not proud of.
Yeah,
Then there's also, but I'll tell you about the good stuff about sports, though.
it
Even
brings
with
you
a,
joy.
it can, but sometimes even with a loss, the teams just tend to bounce back and move forward.
Yeah. It can teach you things about resilience, right? Like even if you fail, you still get up and you try again and you keep trying.
Exactly. Now, that shirt I just showed you, the player on it is Bryce Harper.
Okay. And tell me about him. Like, what is it that you like about Bryce Harper?
um, he's very fiery. He knows when to speak his mind, especially during the times he's gotten ejected from baseball games when he's argued balls and strikes. Because sometimes the umpires in Major League Baseball can be clueless.
Yeah. I have, there was a time in my life that I watched Major League Baseball pretty regularly. Um, I was a Yankees fan, but I think, so I do remember, that feeling that sports brings, both like cheering and jubilation when your team wins, and also really feeling like a part of it when your team doesn't win. So I can see, why that would be a big part of your life. And I think it's a big part of a lot of people's lives, which kind of makes me, think about this where, so one of the things that you're very open about is your autism. And I feel like when people hear that, they hear that you're different. And I also feel like when people hear about these types of things, like how much you love sports or how diving is so therapeutic for you, and how you and I feel the same about being underwater and being able to shut everything out besides hearing our own breath, it really brings home the fact that we are all the same, right? Like I I think that sometimes people use that someone is on the spectrum and take that to mean that they don't have anything in common with that person. And I think that you show that that's not the case, right? Like,
Exactly.
yeah, and I do want to show that you did put up diveheart.org. So if you want to learn about Diveheart and their mission, and or if you want to go on a Diveheart trip or become a Diveheart buddy, I
Or
mean, if you
or
want to,
adaptive instructor
or an
and
adaptive
trainer.
instructor or trainer, yeah, and or if you just want to like go on a trip with Louis, like you can reach out to Diveheart. Um, I know that donations are probably also recommended for them. They are a nonprofit organization, and one of the things that they rely on to do all of this is through donations. And then Jen said, we all need the water.
You're
So, yeah,
correct about that, Jen. You are.
so we are all the same, right?
Yes.
And I think especially with what is happening right now
In
in
the
the
world.
world, and also just in your personal life, I mean, I don't think that it would, if more people realize that, then there would be less bullying
And less war.
and less war. Yes.
Like what's going on in Ukraine to your country of Israel.
Yeah. And I think that it's important to have these conversations and to speak to each other and understand that we are all going through the same thing. We are all feeling like this. We are all having a hard time.
Yes, including having falling outs with people we used to be friends with.
Yeah. And there's another question for you, Louis. Jen asks, can I also ask Louis, what do you think would help making diving more inclusive for people on the spectrum or with other types of things going on?
Well, as Galit and I mentioned, you can donate to Diveheart. You can get involved. You can also spread the word.
Yeah, and so tell me like about that. Is there anything specific that you do differently when diving because of being on the spectrum?
I'm just like everyone else, as the people at Diveheart put it,
Yeah,
because when we're all underwater, we are not necessarily people with disabilities, people with of different races or sexual orientations. We are people, and we are all the same.
yeah, I love that.
As you said, Galit, as you said to me earlier this week on Facebook Messenger, life's got to go on, or the terrorists will win. And
Yeah.
and as I mentioned, it's just like with 9/11 and the pandemic. And believe me, speaking of what I went through on 9/11, I was just 17. I was in the school cafeteria when someone I knew told me about the two planes hitting the twin towers of the World Trade Center, and then seeing the replay of them on TV, to even finding out about the plane that hit the Pentagon, and then lastly Flight 93 crashing into that field in Shanksville. Horrifying time. And then 2 years ago, the insurrection at the Capitol. Because believe me, I woke up from a nap and turned on the TV to see that happening. It was like both 9/11 and January 6th were like terrifying, traumatizing, and a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah, and we had this conversation, right? You were I feel like we have been trying to do this podcast for like almost a month, right? We had scheduled it, and then on that day I was flying, and so we had to reschedule, and
And then
we
you were
tried to do it the
also
next day, and then I
then you
ended
were
up being in the pool.
with Nicole during that photo shoot
Yep.
in San
And so
Francisco.
Yep, and so I couldn't do it the next day, and then you were kind enough this week to say, "Hey, I know that you're going through a lot, and what's going on with Israel is really affecting you." And you were kind enough to say, we can postpone again if you want. But like you said, I said no because life has to continue. I mean, I want to be able to showcase you and the amazing things that you're doing and show people that we are all the same and we can all still continue to help each other and lift each other up, even when everything outside is horrific and terrible.
Yeah. Let me give you another example of that happening last year in my neighborhood, 2 blocks away from me. There was a devastating house fire that killed 12 people, including 8 kids, and made national headlines.
Yeah,
It's because a child was playing with a lighter and accidentally lit a Christmas tree up, and the house they were living in was not up to code here in the city of Philadelphia.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what happened. Even though I didn't know that family, I'm still traumatized by what happened.
yeah,
I always get traumatized by bad things, not just the falling out I had, or or the bullying, but also I've been attacked in in crimes before. Like 2006, I got jumped around the corner from my house when I was coming home from work one night by 2 men who said, "Give me your money," and I refused, and then he beat me up. And then 5 years ago, I was on a SEPTA bus and I got beaten up by this crazy man who thought I was stealing his friend's candy, who was a blind man. He actually offered it to me. I didn't take it from him, it was offered to me.
yeah,
This man was like so deranged. I had to get off the bus at 20th and Market, flag down a couple police officers, but the actual incident happened at 21st and Race on the bus. I was heading down to therapy when this happened.
yeah. And Jen wants to know, does anything help you when you have to deal with those traumatizing things?
It's hard. It's hard. It's just not easy. I talk to my therapist, and I have all the support from all the people I'm close to,
Yeah,
such as Nicole, Galit, even Marilyn. and others.
Yeah. And are there, when you say like you go to therapy, are there specific like exercises that your therapist has you do in order to, like breathing exercises or something else that help you calm down and cope with it?
Yeah. Yes. Sometimes I don't even do that, but yes. And even when things don't go my way in sports, I just try to turn off the TV, not think about it. While at the same time, I'm always told it's only a game.
Yeah. And does it help you when people tell you that it's only a game, or does it make it worse?
It can make it worse sometimes.
Do you feel that when people say that you don't feel validated in your feelings?
Yeah, sometimes that is the case.
Yeah.
So I tend to have fits of rage and tend to vent on social media, which I'm trying to not do that anymore.
Yeah.
I really don't want to screw up and mess anything up. Because even Marilyn says if I'm going to be a professional merman, I want to get gigs. I don't want to turn people off, and she's right. Marilyn is right.
Yeah. Definitely makes sense. Especially, it always kind of makes sense when it comes to like having a profession, like a profession where you have to get gigs or be in the eye of the public. Um, Kind of helps to like keep what you personally post on social media either private or separate, or keep it out of what you're posting. I know that's been one of the harder things for me in my career, um, just because I'm very like outspoken, and when something is wrong to me, I say it loudly, and so it's been hard because I don't feel like I really have a personal social media anymore. I think that all of my social media is all business and all personal. Um, and that's kind of why I made this podcast, right? Because I felt like, in my other job, my business is that I'm a financial wellness coach and a
But you
virtual,
call yourself the financial sharkess.
yes, the financial sharktress. And I felt like every week I got to come onto video and talk to people and give them financial help and teach them financial topics, but I never got to talk about all the other things that mattered to me in life, and it's very important to me that I do get to do that. So being on here with you is an example of doing that, right? This podcast allows me to do that. It allows me to bring really cool and interesting people like you on and have you tell your story and, you know, tell what your dreams are and what your goals are, and the things that are helping you.
And of course, you do Money Mondays, which I miss
Yeah,
seeing you do that. I hope that will return.
that will return. I these past 2 weeks or
Yeah,
this week and a half has been really, really difficult for me. And I have been very close to crying pretty much.
because of Israel.
Yeah. My family is scared. My family is in jeopardy. I feel scared. I feel unwelcome in America by a lot of groups, and a lot of very vocal groups. And so it has been very tough to want to step out in front of the camera. And I think that you being here gave me a reason to do so. It gave me someone to be accountable to do so. And so I appreciate that because I do want to continue doing these things. I just haven't been able to bring myself to do it by myself.
Yeah. And you know what? You know what? I don't care if you're an Israeli. You're still a human to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's
Just
the
like I don't have anything against Muslims, Palestinians, or anyone who might have come from any other Arab nation.
yeah.
Especially after 9/11, a lot of xenophobia targeted people in the Muslim community, and now this latest conflict is doing that again, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, and it's really sad. Um, yeah, it's really sad, and I'm happy that you feel that way. And I think that I wish that more people felt that way, and recognize that we're all the same. We are all human. Um, we should all be working together and living together peacefully without bullying and without war and without trauma. And unfortunately, that's not always possible.
Exactly.
And Jen says, Galit, I appreciate your vulnerability. Thank you, Jen. Um, so, Louis, tell me a little bit about what comes next for you. Like, what are the things that you are looking forward to?
Return to Cozumel in 2024, as I already said earlier.
Yep.
I'm not going this year because of, not just because of the bad things that happened, but also because, in fact, my mother and sister went on a trip to the Bahamas. Of course, my mother also had some health issues of her own this year, like back pain, nausea, which resulted in a couple trips to the ER. But her back's been getting better.
Okay.
And the fact, I've even been saving up for further scuba training, as I don't have no job right now and trying to get back to work on the
Okay.
side, besides eventually getting my shit as a merman off the ground.
Okay. That's awesome. And so I know that you're also a YouTube and a Twitch streamer. What are the types of things that you stream?
Well, I haven't streamed no games lately, but I do stream games on Twitch from time to
Okay.
time, but not for months though. But I hope to return to that eventually. And as a YouTuber, I also make videos about what it's like to be autistic. I do reviews. I even talk about the adventures I've been on, including those with Dive Heart, to even vlogs. I even make some videos of me swimming as a merman.
Okay.
And I also now have a separate YouTube channel for my stint as a merman.
That's awesome. And what are the types of things that are on that?
Well, that channel is going to be for things for when I eventually do gigs in the future.
Okay.
Whereas me just swimming, and it's just that's going to be on my adventure channel, since those are technically adventure videos.
Okay.
Which is why I call myself Lewis's Adventures on YouTube.
That's awesome.
Because that channel started in 2015.
Okay.
Now, let me say something about whenever you have a falling out with someone.
Yeah.
If they don't want to be bothered with you, don't even try reaching out to them. Just
Yeah.
let it go. Try to let it go. And I admit it's been a struggle for me. And I admit that was one of the reasons why I would vent on my Facebook too. Just because I made my share of mistakes, including overstepping boundaries, doesn't make me a bad person.
Right.
It was more like unintentional consequences and things just getting out of hand.
Yeah.
And of course, a lot of trauma can be caused. There was a lot of trauma caused by the damage made caused by this falling out.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to talk bad about them. Just well, there were some good things she did say though when we were all still on good terms, such as treasure the memories, take out the trash, and inclusivity, love, and positivity.
Yeah.
Those were words she said
That's beautiful.
on her own Twitch channel.
That's beautiful. I'm really happy to hear that.
And I also decided to adopt the words inclusivity, love, and positivity, which of course should also be the mission of the diversity initiative.
I love that.
Thank you, Galit.
And what is it that you hope to accomplish with the diversity initiative? Because that's something that you're very involved with, and you meet, like, we meet every week.
Well, maybe eventually do an adaptive mermaid program. Even though I didn't get no NOWI scholarship, which Nicole convinced me to do, and I'm not sure if I'll even get accepted again in November through NOWI. Either way, I do look forward to eventually becoming a PADI mermaid instructor.
Yeah.
Now, the other further scuba training I'm saving up for next year is my advance from specialties, including deep diver, wreck diver, and so forth. And I like to save up for additional specialties when going back to Cozumel, such as drift diver, night diver, fish identification, to even yeah, that's what I probably like to save up for. Excuse me, I need to pick something up, but there we go.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just like continuing in what you're doing, and the path that you've chosen in life, and bringing all of your skills to the diversity initiative. And I know that you are one of the ones tasked with holding us to tasks and deadlines, and making sure that if we say something, we're going to do it. So I'm really appreciative, and it just goes to show that everyone's skills are required and are needed for us to have a successful world and a successful organization.
And speaking of the diversity initiative, every year we will have elections for different positions on the committee.
Yeah.
Because that's something that Galit has talked about.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to be having elections this year, and we're going to have staggered elections so that, it's not every year that the board changes. So also, if you're looking, we are looking for board members. So anyone that wants to be on the diversity initiative and be a part of the mission that Louis and I are striving towards, which is underwater for all by 2030, right? Which is a huge ask and a huge task. And so we need everybody's hands on deck. If you would like to be a part, to be a volunteer, to be on the board, we would love to have you. It's about making inclusive, safe underwater spaces for everyone, and making sure that everyone gets a chance to experience the underwater world like we do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's also, I hope to go back to the shore again in 2025. 2024 actually. Couldn't go there this year, especially when my late maternal grandmother's health problems. As I said earlier in this podcast, she had passed away at the age of 88. She
Yeah.
was diagnosed with pancreatic and kidney cancers back in the spring. What we didn't know, she had months to live, and she wouldn't even take the chemo treatment or have the tumor removed because of her age.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm sure that was hard for you.
Yeah. Because let me tell you what went on, Galit. The morning that she passed away, my mother woke me up and told me to come down quickly because something was going on with my grandmother. And, well, I had to get up because, in fact, I had to watch the dog, Vinny, a dachshund. And you know what? My mother told me that by the time her, my father, and sister got to my aunt's house where my grandmother was living at when she didn't visit us, it was too late. Because what I heard, she was heavily breathing, struggling to breathe, which we didn't know was actually she was actually in her final moments of life, and that was heartbreaking. And then when I called my mother asking about her, she told me she had passed away. I really cried, and sometimes I still do cry from time to time. And believe me, when I seen her in her casket from the funeral home at the viewing virtually because I couldn't go there, just broke my heart to see her eyes closed and laying in that coffin, knowing that I'll never see her face or hear her voice ever again. I was also traumatized in a similar way with my paternal grandmother, my father's mother, when she passed away when I was 13, 2 months shy of my 14th. She was 79 at the time.
I'm sorry. I'm
So that
sorry.
as a result of what happened, I don't ever go to funerals or viewings.
Yeah, it's really hard. And sometimes you don't want to put yourself into that situation. So I completely understand why you would feel that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry for everything that is happening with you. Um, and I am happy that you are doing as well as you are doing, and being the amazing person that you are. And I really want to thank you for coming on here and talking about what's going on for you and everything that you've been through since we last since you were last on the podcast, which is a lot, right? It's a lot and some very traumatic stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm really happy that you're here and you're talking about all of these things that are happening, and that you're sharing that with us. And Jen said, you are both beacons of light despite all that is going on. So thank you, Jen. And I want Louis, you to tell people how they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitch. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter.
And what are your handles? All of your social handles.
Sif, my moderator, just used my social command to bring them up.
Oh, awesome. And I'm going to put some in the, I'm also going to put some in the comments right now.
My moderator said it didn't work.
I just put a few. And here's some more.
I need to fix all my commands. I need to fix my command. Yeah, thank you, Galit, for posting that.
Yeah, I'm going to throw, some of them in here. Yeah, even so what's a gig salad?
Gig salad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that for your mermaiding gigs?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. In there. Okay. So thank you so much, Louis, for being on here. I don't think I was able to put your to post to where you are posting. So Cinematic Sith says that still nothing. So I think it only went out to my Facebook and my YouTube. But Louis, please feel free to comment all of your links on your Twitch and your Facebook, because I don't think my posts are going to there, even though we are streaming live to those places. So definitely feel free to comment and make sure that everybody gets, your different links, because I want them to follow you and follow your journey and, be a part of your adventures. All right.
Yep.
Anyone who is watching now or watching on the replay, thank you so much for tuning in. I know there are so many other things to think about today or to do today, so I appreciate you being here with us, and having a little bit of a diversion from everything that's going on in the world. This was another episode of Galit Speaks. Please make sure that if you like this episode, you subscribe and share, and binge watch the rest of the podcast. And I will see you next week for another episode of the Galit Speaks podcast. Thank you so much all for tuning in. Bye-bye.